Hello, this is Pam like a Ghost. We have Papers Music on.
Hi,
Hi, how you doing?
yeah, I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So it's good to have you on the show. We just do a little brief intro. I am Pam like a Ghost. I'm a podcaster and musician producer, and we've been interviewing folks on the internet since 2018. We're at about 27,000 listeners worldwide now. So we're happy to have Papers Music. You're a UK London rapper producer, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about your latest single and your whole project as Papers Music.
Mm.
So, you got the questions we sent you, right?
Yeah. I've got them.
Yeah. So,
Got
so we're
them.
going to start off with like the first one.
Awesome.
So, when did you first get into music? At what age?
I've always kind of been into music. My family's a bit musical. So when I was young, I was like in choirs and stuff, and I was singing from probably the age of like 4 or 5. So it's just always been something I've done. And then probably around like 13, 14, I started writing, started like playing around on the guitar and that, and it's just gone from there really.
So, when did you shift to more hip hop rap from like guitar based? Um,
That's probably when I started getting a bit more into production when I was probably, I think, 17 or 18.
mhm.
Even then I was still doing a lot of acoustic stuff, but I always wrote my songs like I was gonna rap them, if that makes sense. Like my flow, even when I used to sing, was quite similar to just using my voice. And then really like the last couple of years have been when I've really got into production. So that's kind of where like Papers has kind of come from.
So, did you have other projects before Papers Music where you were more maybe rock or
Yeah,
indie band oriented, and then
yeah,
you decided
yes,
to shift to this new persona?
absolutely. Just before Papers happened, I was with another label for about 3 years. So I'd put out another project with them. But I didn't have really like a say in the production or anything like that. It was a bit of a headache, to be honest. So I got out of that on the 1st of August, and that's why it's been like all systems go on kind of getting out Papers and putting out stuff that I make and that I love.
Oh, so that's interesting. So you
Mm,
realized you had a talent for music. You had actually worked on other projects or maybe going different directions.
mm.
So when you realized you had a talent for music, that you wanted to write your own music, like what age did you decide you wanted to write your own type of music?
Oh God, forever, I think. Because I grew up and I used to go to like theatre school and I was a dancer and stuff. So I've always kind of been around this kind of industry, and I would just always write. I mean, I've got like old YouTube videos from when I'm like 15 sitting in my bathroom. Like, I don't even have a capo. I've got like a pen and a hairband around the guitar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would just always be writing from when I was young. So it's always been something that I've wanted to do.
So which instruments did you pick up first? Or you said guitar. Did you get into any other
It
instruments?
was piano when I was really young, which I wish I never quit because I'd probably be really good by now instead of like bashing out chords. I played piano for a while. I played the drums for a bit, guitar. I dabbled in the violin for a couple months, which my parents hated when I was really young. But yeah,
So,
yeah. So I've played a couple of things.
so when you started getting in music production, was like because you had a bad experience with like producers on this other project, and where you wanted to really control your own music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the production has been a bit more serious for me for the last couple of years. It takes so long to get good though. Do you know what I mean? It's such a like a craft. You have to really put time into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it started with me just kind of messing around on Logic, just trying to put down my songs in a way that they could be like I could send the skeletons of it to somebody and then they could kind of turn it into what I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then yeah, just kind of from not being able to achieve the sound that I wanted through other people, it really drove me to just do it myself. I feel like if you're going to be an artist these days and you want to make music, you should be able to produce your own stuff and kind of build it from the ground up.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a producer, keyboardist, electronic musician, and I'm in my 50s. And when I started when I was 17, I used to find old used Rolands and Modes,
Oh my God, amazing.
and I was watching all the new wave bands like Joy Division, Depeche
Yeah,
Mode.
yeah, yeah.
And so I just like, okay, I was, I was just the kind of musician I could kind of play by ear. And if I see
Mm-hmm.
somebody do something, so I said, you know what? Prince was like my big influence. I love Dylan. I love Hendrix.
Yeah,
So I said, you know what? Like all the guys I like, they really put it down.
yeah,
They
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
do it themselves, between Stevie Wonder and Dylan and Prince and Hendrix. They were guys that they would go and do it. And I had
Yeah,
bands, but it's like I was always writing the music. And I said, you know what? I'm
yeah.
just going to do my own project. And I just been focusing on that. And I do really spend a lot of time interviewing singer songwriters because that's kind of where my head's at. And
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear what other people, how they come to that.
Yeah, everyone's got kind of like a different work process, hasn't it? And like a different way of how they do stuff. And yeah, it's just cool, man. I love production. It's a really fun thing to kind of get
Does it
into.
make you feel like when you're writing and producing your own music, you have like a singular vision that you can really represent, like
Yeah, for
that
sure. And
that
then
piece of
you
art?
like you start to hear like similarities. So you like with the new stuff that's going to be coming out, like something like there's a couple of drum pads on Ableton that I love, and like I'll use them because I love them. And you start to hear like similarities in your own stuff, which is kind of cool because then people will listen and be like, oh, that's like what Papers would do. That's like kind of like Papers drum
Yeah,
type.
yeah, you're building like your own style. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the whole thing
Oh,
when you're a singer songwriter, like you're influenced by all these people, but it's kind of like a melting pot of all your influences, and then suddenly, out of all those influences as a musician, we kind of absorb what's there, right? And
yeah,
then your personality puts your take on it. And
definitely.
so then that becomes Papers music or becomes what other project you're on, and then people get to hear your signature sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I
Definitely.
think that's what you can't, if you go to producers that are trying to do hits, right? They're going to end up sounding like all the hits they make.
Oh yeah, of course, because it's like all the stuff that's played on the radio, isn't it? It's the same 13 songs on
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah, they're all running the
That same
same.
thing. Yeah,
They're all
for
running
sure.
the same pads out
Mm-hmm.
of Fruity Loops, and they're all doing the same drum sounds. And
Exactly.
it's like, I come from a time where, like, okay, well, my Moog can create new sounds any day of the week.
Mm.
And so I just create my own stuff, and then I don't have to worry about copyright. Everything's like an analog, loop coming off of
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
Rolands and my analog gear. And then I'm always telling people, like, then you don't have to pay anybody
No,
because
exactly.
you just build your own stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Then you don't have to worry about copyright hits and people. Oh, you got a violation. Could you grab somebody's this and that? And that's a big problem today where people are like, the clip based music is cool, but you gotta clear everything. You gotta do all the legal work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just better if you can kind of compose it and write it
Yeah.
yourself.
And also, like, you should want to do, like, I feel like as an artist, you should want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, do
Yeah.
it for yourself from the bottom and
Well, it's
not
the
like,
difference between like a producer and an artist. To
yeah.
me, it's like if you're a singer songwriter, it's kind of implied that you're writing your material, right? If you're a producer, it's more like, okay, well, I know how to organize things as a music director, and I can grab clip here and stuff and know how to arrange it. And that's a skill set,
Oh
but
my God. Yeah.
but it's different, and you can be appreciated for that. And I understand that. I mean, I love the Bomb Squad from like Public Enemy. I love De La Soul. They were really good. There were some
Mm-hmm.
bands like the Beastie Boys. They're very good at clip production.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if we have guys that are like brilliant like that, then they don't really get hit because they're so brilliant and so hidden. Some of the stuff they're doing, it's like they might have took it from here, but the way they used it, you can't really
Yeah, you can't
identify
even
it.
tell. Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when you put together this new Papers project, what was your whole goal? And maybe who were your influences? Maybe talk about it.
My goal for it was just kind of obviously being able to have the freedom to make whatever style of music I want, say whatever I want, wear whatever I want in the videos, because that was restricted of me for a really long time. And my influences, honestly, uh, I've listened to like a lot of different music. I think growing up, the Weekend trilogy album like shaped me as an artist completely because it was just genius. I listened to a lot of Miguel, a lot of Kendrick Lamar, a lot of J. Cole. And then I grew up on like rock music because my dad loves rock. So it's just been like a big amalgamation of like loads of different styles. And it just depends what mood I'm in as well, really, what I want to listen to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I have
Mm.
a big punk. I'm a keyboardist, but I have a big punk influence. I love the Sex Pistols. I love the Clash.
Mm.
I love the Ramones. So like people always say, well, keyboards, where you going there? Well, look at Trent Reznor. Look at Nine Inch Nails. Nine Inch
Mm-hmm.
Nails is totally influenced by punk. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
being a synthesizer player that's influenced in that way is not that surprising. You look at Joy Division. So
Mm-hmm.
so if you think about it, like, and then I have influences from like jazz, like Sun Ra and
Yeah.
Davis and Coltrane. And a lot of, cool thing about hip hop and rap is like you see guys like Kendrick Lamar, he mixes like old obscure soul songs with jazz
This is it.
and rock. And that to me is where the future of music is. Where
Oh my
you
God, yeah. And it's so theatrical and it's so interesting and it's so different from all of the stuff that you're like that's thrown in your face every day on the radio. Do you know what I mean? Which is sad that they will never play like his album tracks
Yeah, his albums are
to people.
meant to be heard as a full project.
Oh my gosh, yeah, which people don't do anymore. Like everyone, it's just singles. No one's kind of putting time into like a body of work
Well,
anymore.
yeah. Well, I live in that space. I grew up, with concept albums from like Pink Floyd and the
Mm.
Beatles. It's like everything I do is like concept stuff. I still do albums, but I have a very like micro audience. I'm happy if I hit like 10,000. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
for sure.
but but that's how I live. I'm able to work in that space because I don't overextend myself. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have to decide like that's what I want to live in. I like the album format. I like concept albums. I like progressive music. So
Yeah,
progressive music means you're going to have a suite of songs that kind of go together and tell a story. And
yeah,
so
for
I'm
sure.
never going to be like writing singles because that's not where my head's at. You know,
Yeah.
maybe one of my songs might be a single. I have a song now that's doing well, but it's like
Uh-huh.
I never intended it to be that way. If it happens to go
Yeah.
that way, then it goes that way.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's what I think is missing today because so many people are trying to get that slamming 2 minute song.
This is the thing, but then when that happens, and then it's like the kind of 15 minutes of fame thing, you know what I mean? There's not really like longevity.
Yeah, you gotta be like, dude.
Build that, like
Yeah,
the listeners have to like trust you and grow with you and know you, and I don't know. I think that people really can tell when someone isn't being like genuine and they're just kind of like making a track because they think it's going to be a banger and that's going to like get them on the radio. Do you know what I mean? I think, I don't know. I don't really want to do
yeah. I
that
think I
stuff.
think every artist I've ever talked to that's really pure into it, they do music because they love it, and
Mm.
they perform it because they like to perform. And it is a consequence where if you want to get to the top of the charts, there's certain things you gotta do, but you have to figure out that kind of like middle ground
Yeah,
between
and do it in your way.
yeah, doing it your way or doing it the producer way that says I'm gonna make you a hit, and then you end up in a Keisha situation or something.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, you
Yeah.
want to be able to control your destiny,
Hmm. For
So
sure.
I totally get where you're at. So let's talk about like your song '90s Baby. So how did that come about? Because I'm a big child of the '80s and '90s. I
Oh,
mean, I live in that space, so I was wondering
yeah.
like where you're coming from with that.
Do you know that all was born off of the little dun 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 synth that happened? I was just like messing around and that kind of happened with the drum beat and it just kind of went from there, to be honest. I wrote it all kind of after I'd like left my old label and it was kind of a song that I knew like it was just like fresh starts and got some stuff off my chest that I had to get off my chest. And then with all the references like the Destiny's Child and the Backstreet Boys, like that was
Yeah,
just oh my
that
god, I just was like, this is just worked out so perfectly. Like I'm just gonna fully go and reference like
yeah,
Britney.
that bye bye bye.
I know. That's so jokes. I was like, I have to put the harmonies in here, 100%.
I like
Um,
that. I like the way that you merge those ideas in the kind of
mm,
'90s concept. Yeah, because I'm more of a maybe a '70s, '80s guy, but like I do appreciate the '90s because you get bands like New Order, and I was
yeah.
like really into New Order and Depeche Mode when they were really kicking.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No,
But
I love it. I love the 90s, man. I'm so about it. I think I should have been born like 10 years earlier so I could have had my.
what I think I loved about that time is like the bands, they went on stage with their synths and their guitars and full
Oh my god,
bands.
yeah.
And today, like I'll go to a club in New York and I'll have my roadies and all my stuff, right? And then there's some guy we coming out with a CDJ and just a SD card. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually have to tune up, with my whole band. We've got like real keyboards
Amazing.
and the basses and stuff. And they're like, oh, that's going to take you how long? Well, like 20 minutes, because I'm like,
Yeah, you're
I'm
like, I've
like a
done this
real,
before.
I'm a real band. I'm not going to like just jump on the CDJ.
Yeah.
And
And also, like, where's the fun in it, man? It's so fun to play live when you got your band playing with you.
yeah, I
So
understand
fun.
it's cool to have the modern setup where you have a
Yeah.
CDJ or you come out there with like, you know, a MIDI pad or something.
Hmm.
But it's like it takes some of the life out of it. If all you're doing is your backup tracks and you kind of maybe lip syncing to it or over, you know, maybe
Yeah.
muting a couple tracks
And
and
you
then
can't beat
singing.
live drums. Oh
Yeah,
my.
it's like a live drummer is always gonna kick. You know,
Yeah.
a live guitar player playing. You know, it's just something about that's the kind of when I go to New York, I go to the clubs that want to see that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's there's still audiences for that. You know, but it seems like it's getting like smaller in some places because people
Hmm.
are like, oh, they just want to see. You know, so what? How do you handle that with what you're doing? Like when you go to do your music, do you have a DJ behind you, or do you play it? You know, how are you gonna when Corona's over? How are you gonna like perform um, as papers?
I haven't. Do you know what? I think I will try and get as much kind of live aspect as I can. Like when I played, I haven't played a show in so long because when I was with my last label, I literally like wasn't allowed to play live or anything. It was really nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, when I play, I'd have like a lot of stuff. My drummer would have like the Roland, what's it called, the
Oh,
SPD. So he would like put some stuff on the backing track and like
mm-hmm.
a click track, and then play some of the drums and like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
ideally like to do that. I just want to find some good musicians that I can trust and that get it and can
Yeah, it's
play
like
what
a
I
hybrid.
play.
It's like yeah, a lot of bands you still want your backing track so people can
Mm.
get the song. And so I've done like things where I've used Ableton Live, you know, mute tracks and then play stuff over it that you know.
Yeah. See, I think that would be so fun as well. Like if I can play and have like the push out and be playing some of the like drums or something like that. I think it's just a cool thing to watch somebody do when they're
Yeah,
performing.
it's just cool to have your song there. So I mean, so you can play it straight, but then you could improvise a little bit. Like if you have somebody controlling like an Ableton unit with a MIDI controller, or you know some kind of pad-based grid controller, like an MPC.
Mhm.
If you're using like an MPC, then you have a lot of freedom. That like, okay, if I've got like a music director, and you know happens to play bass, and he's got some kind of MPC, then when you're playing live, it's like he can kind of jam it like a DJ. But he
Yeah.
can do it even more better than a DJ because he has more control over what he could do. He could kick a clip off that's not standard, not the same, you know, as the original song. So you can improvise a little bit and have more
Mhm.
fun. And so
Yeah, and
you
then when
can,
people are watching it, it's like something new for them. You know what I mean? It's not just like the same song that they've listened to.
yeah, I mean that was the whole thing when I was back in the day. You know, going to see like I saw Prince, and the cool thing about seeing Prince is that you knew he wasn't actually going to play Purple Rain the way he did it in the movie. The whole
Yeah.
thing about him is he would do these like 12-minute, 15-minute extended jams of the
Oh my
songs.
God, amazing. Yeah, and you can just see on stage that everyone's just jamming and freestyling and
Yeah, that
every-
was always what I liked. I would go see the Allman
uh-huh.
Brothers, you know. I would go see a band like Who's to Do or the Replacements. And the whole point of it was like you want even REM. I used to see them back in the day when they before they were super big. And it was just cool to see those guys like just jamming their songs out.
Yeah.
And so it's cool, like, and even when you're doing with hip hop, you know, it's cool when like musicians tend to like, oh, I'll do some lyrics that weren't on the cut that you know they didn't put on the album. Then I can kind of run these lyrics because I
Mm.
felt like it. Like I mean, because every songwriter has multiple versions of their song, and then
Oh
sometimes
my
when you
gosh,
feel
yeah.
like it, you go out and say, "Well, this day, you know, this day when I perform it, I'm going to use the lyrics I wanted to put out, but I didn't put out." you know,
Yeah.
that's the kind of freedom. But so on Paper's music, you got your '90s baby song. So you have a
Mm.
full project that you're working on for more songs for this.
Yeah. I've got loads of songs. A couple of them are mastered. A few of them are getting mixed at the moment. And then literally I'm just in the studio all the time. I built a studio in my house, so
Cool. Yeah, I'm
in
all about
every day.
that.
Yeah. It's so good, man. So, you know, whenever you get that feeling and you know that something good's gonna come, I can just jump in here and get it done, really. So I think I'm gonna release. I'll probably do 2 more singles and then put out either an LP or an album, just depending on how much material I've got.
Well, I've been
And that's
seeing like, yeah, I mean, EPs are
it's,
doing pretty good. Like, do you think about doing an extended play or do a full album?
I don't know yet. I think it depends. I'm gonna put out another single in 6 weeks, and then probably one 4 to 6 weeks after that. So depending on how much like relevant stuff I've got by then, because like what we were saying earlier, like I've got a couple tracks that I had done about 6 months ago when I was doing kind of more soul stuff, and like the tracks are really good, but it doesn't really fit with
Or
what I'm
what you're
doing.
doing now.
Yeah, so it's like I've got all of these things that I like mastered and I could put out, but now it's just about getting selective over what I want people to hear, what I want papers to represent, what I want to do with this kind of brand. And like, if I have 5 tracks that work with it, amazing. If I've got 10, amazing. I'm just gonna kind of go with it, and I just want to put out like the best stuff for people that I can. So I'm just gonna be selective and make sure that the album or whatever it is bangs, and that's all that matters really.
So when you put together an idea like an album, the cool thing I always like about albums is they kind of like make a statement like an audio novel. You know, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
like an audio movie. Like when you have a really good album that kind of flows, it kind of tells a story. Or if
Yeah,
it
definitely.
doesn't tell a story, all the songs kind of fit together. You know.
Yeah.
So is that your idea? Like you got to make so it feels like it's a cohesive idea.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think now that I'm rapping a lot more, I used to sing a lot more. And so I don't want to put like songs on this that kind of aren't in the space that I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think my production as well is getting better quickly because I'm just spending so much time doing it. It's such a long process to get good at this. And honestly, like anybody that starts it, I think knows that there's like a big mountain ahead of them until they start making stuff that sounds good. And I think I'm kind of getting to the point now where I feel confident and I feel like I've found my sound, because it takes such a long time as an artist to find your sound and your thing and like your path. So I think I've just kind of brushed it the last 6 months, and it's going to be exciting to kind of see where that goes.
So the origin of Paper's music, is there a story behind why you chose that name?
Honestly, I was sitting in my studio and I was trying to think of rebrand names, because I had to rebrand because I hated the last album that I put out and I wanted to kind of get away from that and my old name and all of that. And I had some rolling papers sitting on my table and I just thought papers, because it's kind of androgynous, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I didn't want to use my name. I want to separate myself from
So you wanted to
the.
create like a stage persona.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it kind of it is, and it's not like it's all from like experience, but it's also nice to kind of be able to pull yourself away from it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I've always been a very big fan of like Bowie because he could go into all these characters, and then
Mm-hmm.
you know like if you look at Ziggy, you know he did Ziggy and then he never really did it again. Maybe people said, oh, he kind of did it again in the '90s, but basically he would take a character, do it, and then I'm done. And then he'd go
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
next character, and it would represent a totally different vision for his music.
And that's cool because then it turns each song into like a piece of art. Like you're bringing someone into this like sound space, and then you're shooting a video and you're like creating this little world in this one song, which I think is really cool. I think people don't do that so much anymore. I mean, Gaga did it.
Yeah, Lady Gaga is kind of modern
Yeah,
day
like she did it
female
so
Bowie.
well.
Yeah,
She's
she's like the
genius.
female Bowie. She's able to
Yeah. Did you see
channel
that
what.
documentary on Netflix,
Yeah,
5'5"?
yeah, but she was
Oh,
channeling like that same idea
yeah.
because she tried to do herself. I
Mm-hmm.
actually seen tapes of when she wasn't Lady Gaga, and she was really good, but they just wouldn't gain traction. It's kind of
Yeah.
like what happened with Bowie. Bowie was like David Jones, and he tried to do it without being Ziggy, without being Thin White Dude, and
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody paid attention.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
because there's so much in this world now. Like there's so many musicians. Unless you're doing something different or like that jumps out, then people don't pay attention.
was also I think when you're able to kind of go outside of yourself, and when you can
Mm,
create that stage persona, like if you look at like Freddie Mercury, he created this persona that wasn't exactly him, but it
yeah.
became Queen, and he could project that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was this like bigger than life character, and that's kind of what you have to do to really kind of get into a space, and it does protect you in some ways because it doesn't have to be you. You know, it can
Yeah.
be this kind
Exactly.
of variation. Maybe there's real parts of you in that character, but then you can kind of play with it like an actor. You become
Mm-hmm.
like a method actor, and I think that's what's cool when you actually realize that the theatrical nature of acting and music can kind of coexist. when you become
Yeah.
a performer, and then you go into that, and then you can do things that you would have never done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think with Papers Music, seems like that's what you're kind of doing now. You're taking like who you were before, and you've created this whole new stage persona because you want to project something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fun thing. I think it's gonna be a good journey, you know.
So regarding collaboration, you did collaborate with your last project, but you didn't like the result. So are you continuing to collaborate with people for Papers Music? It was just primarily most like 100% you.
So all the tracks that are going to be on the album or EP or LP or whatever it's going to be are produced by me, and it's all going to be me. Obviously, I've got like an amazing guy that mixes stuff for me. And then lately I know a couple like house DJs. So I've been working with them. They've sent me some tracks. I've been singing over their stuff. And I've been working with another guy called Mac James. We've got a song called Peroni coming out on October the 1st.
Of course.
So most of it's me, but then I've had a few people come to me, and if I like the beats, I like what they're doing, then I'll sing or I'll speak over it. Because it's fun, and I think sometimes you get kind of I get writer's block a lot, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through like 2 months where I can make 10 songs, and then I'll go through another month where I can't get one word out onto a page. So it's nice in those times to have other people's music to kind of inspire you, because I think it's hard as well when you're writing a song and you're producing it and you're like really focused on every single aspect of it. Sometimes you can get a bit stuck because you're just kind of like, well, I'm like, where do I start sometimes? So it's cool to write over other people's stuff. It gets me out of my writer's block sometimes.
So when you collaborate, are you using Papers Music as
Yeah.
Okay, that's what's going forward. You're not changing, because sometimes it's cool. Sometimes Prince used to go around and change his name, and be like all these different names that he would like record under, and then work with other people, and then people didn't actually even know sometimes it was him.
Yeah.
Doing it. But so I didn't know if like did you ever feel like, well, maybe I should do that? Or
I was thinking about it because I've had to like start from the ground up again after I left the label before. I just thought like the best thing to do right now is kind of get my name in as many places as possible. So just work with as many people as I can if I like this stuff, and just make sure that people have seen the name Papers Music.
Yeah. So you're in that phase because you want to promote that
for sure.
new character. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've when you were talking about like collaborating, it is like I have done that where I've had albums where I've co-written and had a project with another artist, and it's very inspiring because I'm primarily a solo artist.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to write everything in these big rock operas. And one thing I was always able to kind of get around having writer's block is I'll go and just do live jams like on the net.
Yeah.
And I find that when I do live performances, it generates like new ideas, because I used to be a big fan of West O.A.M. with Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and they just used to do these big live kind of Parliament Funkadelic kind of free flowing free jazz funk jams.
Amazing.
And when you do that, what ends up happening is you go back and listen to the tapes, and then you find the songs out of those jam sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And I
find, I used to live in Brighton, which is on the south coast of England. It's like quite a small town. There's like a couple unis, and we had like so many jam sessions there. Like I went to a music school down there for a while, and Brighton's got like such a good scene for that. I've just moved back to London last year, like end of last year, and I haven't managed, obviously COVID's happened, so we've been like locked down. I haven't managed to find like that here yet, which I'm quite excited to do, because in Brighton there's such a good scene for it. Everyone's a musician there basically.
Yeah, I find that's always like, I love to do that, because if I ever run out of ideas, if I go in to do a big jam, then that's where I tend to say, okay, here's a bunch of new material, and I'll just go through it, and then you'll pick out the hooks out of the live tape, and then just, I can work on this. Because here's this cool bass line, or here's this cool chord arrangement that I kind of never thought I was going to, you just kind of do it.
Sometimes it just comes out, and then you're like, oh, that was sick.
Yeah, because when you're a musician, sometimes if you overthink things, if you say, I'm sitting down, I'm going to write a song, and it's like, well, that's not going to come out good. But if I just kind of just go hit the record button and just jam, then my kind of musical memory over time, my influences come out, and you just say, oh yeah, well that works, and I can
Yeah,
work on
definitely.
this. That's what I find. Like if I ever try to force myself to do something, that's like, well, that's
I'm
not that.
exactly the same. It's like, what do I start? Do I start with a drum beat? Like, am I gonna go in with a synth first? Because yeah, sometimes it's difficult. But I do that with my lyrics as well. Like when I've made a beat, I just freestyle and then go back in and like find what I like and then kind of build from that.
So do you end up using your phone to like capture, like if you are out walking and you come up with like some lyrics, do you like do a voice memo and
All the
cap?
time. Yeah, I've got like just random stuff sung into my phone that I have no idea what it is, and just like lyrics in my notes and stuff, which is cool because then you've always got something that you can kind of pull from.
Do you
If you
also like have like a diary or a notebook? Like I see a
No,
lot of
I'm
rappers.
like awful at like writing with a pen, so
Oh, you're
it
not
really
good at
frustrates me. Yeah,
that.
I'm like the worst handwriting, and I lose everything. So
So it's
if I
better,
just
yeah.
keep
The
it
voice
on my
memo is probably the
phone,
better idea.
yeah, for sure. It's just the easier way. I'm probably not going to lose my phone, but I'll lose a notepad in like 2 minutes. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's interesting. So like when you produce, like if you're in, like where you're using Logic,
No, I'm using Ableton now. I
you're using
started,
Ableton. Okay.
um, and then I got the Ableton push and got Ableton and just converted because the push was so good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I just love it. I don't think I could go back to Logic now. I don't think I'd even know how to use it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. 'Cause, like I had been using DAWs initially, and then I switched to this kind of old school method. It's like, okay, I have all these Moogs and these Rolands and these hardware
Mm,
synths, and I kind of just take like hardware recorders and I just record my synths, all my
that's
drum machines and stuff in that kind of old school method of using like a Tascam or using a Fostex, and
mhm.
just kind of laying it down. And it kind of it gives me limitations, but it forces me to kind of I have to learn my song. I have to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
down and actually learn it. So then when if I because I want to play live, so I want to actually be able to actually play the parts. So I
Yeah,
tend to
for sure.
write so I can actually play it live.
That's awesome. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't think I could play my stuff live. I really want to get good at finger drumming because when I make drums, obviously I do it like all in
it,
sections. I
it,
do the kick and the snare and the hi hats. But if I could, I don't think I could do it all at once yet. That would be really cool though.
yeah, it's just a different thing because like if you're a keyboard player,
Mhm.
you kind of want to be able to play it live, so that's like your thing.
Yeah,
So
definitely,
you're kind of
definitely.
right like that, and even guitar players will write like that because like I want to be able to perform it. And it was an old story about the Who where they're like they loved Tommy because they actually wrote Tommy so they could perform it. And the
Love it.
producer at the time had told them, "Well, let's do all these overdubs," and then they kind of band pushed back. Like, we want to actually be able to perform this as a four-piece band without having to bring other people in.
Hmm.
And so they actually wrote Tommy so it would work with all four members without having to bring other people in.
That's awesome.
So if you think about it, that's one thing I think people in this kind of modern world where you can layer so much that sometimes people forget like, okay, well if you're ever going to play that live, you really can't do
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's why it's different when you're working with bands. I think when I was in uni, when I was studying songwriting there, I had a band that played with me, and it's really funny trying to take like an electronic based song and take that into a rehearsal room with like four other musicians and try and get them to
Yeah, it's hard.
redo what I've done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard.
I've got like an indie drummer trying to play like trap hi hats, and it's like it all got a little bit mad. Luckily, he had a SPD, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it
where
was a fun process though, being able to adapt stuff and like change the song because obviously when you're in a room with all the musicians, you can just be like, we'll just change that and play these chords and find how it works. Which that was pretty fun, to be honest. That was a good time.
but I think once you're a solo musician, like I think because I do a solo act, I have a lot of sequencers and
Mm,
a lot of devices so I can actually, play as a one person band.
that's so cool.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then if you have like, like an 808 or a 909, like a real physical drum machine, you have
Hmm.
all these Rolands and Moogs that can do all these things. You can run foot pedals and all kinds of things to kind of be able to be that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you can
yeah,
have
yeah.
all that layering happening and you have stuff coming off your sequences, but the stuff you're doing live. And so it can be similar to like running a DAW, but you're running all these clips off of like analog sequencers
Mm-hmm.
instead of running them in a DAW. You're kind of running them. and tying them together so the tempos are tied together by like
Yeah.
controlled voltage and all this crazy stuff. But it's like it's a lot harder. It forces you to work in a different way.
Oh
But
my God, yeah. And it's the level of concentration that it takes as well
yeah, it's
is
just a different thing. But I think a lot of musicians try to challenge themselves to kind of force like the creativity.
yeah.
I think it's always good to kind of put yourself in a situation where you might not be fully comfortable, because that's where you actually start
That's where
creating.
you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So you find
Definitely.
that with the papers music where you actually put yourself in a position where you weren't exactly fully comfortable, or were you totally comfortable with what you were doing when you first started it?
When it first started, I'd kind of got to the point where I was like so ready for it to start, because for so long I wasn't allowed to put out stuff that I liked on my own music or even sing like the style that I wanted. So by the time papers came around, I was literally just like, I just want to do this 100%. I was like really in it. And so within like 2 months, I literally left the label on the 1st of August. So it's basically been like 2 months now. And like having that drive to do it has really pushed me to do a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, which has been cool. I think I needed that little like fire to kind of do it.
Yeah, building your home studio, that's a big thing. I've been a big proponent of that. I've had my home studio for like 6 years, and it's always like getting new gear. But I think it's just like the cool thing about that is like, okay, whenever I feel like it, I can just do what I want.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got like your place. Like it's been a while since I've had like the privacy and space to do it. And I think when you are like recording vocals or stuff like that as well, you need that kind of like safe space that you can fuck up. It doesn't matter, and you can like
you can do whatever you want. You can try.
Yeah, you can
something.
do whatever you want. You can get so experimental, and there's like no one's listening through the walls, or it's cool. I think it's important to kind of have that.
Now, did you have to like really build your studio to get your vocals right? Did you have to do anything to like make sure you're getting good vocals versus going?
To be honest, I bought like a log cabin and plastered all of it, so it's like pretty well insulated and soundproofed. And then besides that, I just got like a really nice mic. I've got a Neumann, it's really nice. I've got like a big reflector, so I don't find that I haven't like treated the room or anything. Like I just got a book on mixing and mastering. Let me see, who's it by? It's actually, let me see, I've got it right here. Mike Senior, Mixing Secrets for the Small Studio, because there's a lot of stuff, technical stuff that I wish that I'd gone to uni that I didn't know. So I've bought this like massive book, which I'm trying to get through at the moment, and it talks all about like treating the room and stuff like this. So I think I am going to do that next. But I just don't know. I mean, the vocals are coming up pretty clean as they are.
Yeah, a lot of the technology today, like since I built my, a lot of it was like the different preamps and stuff I use on my mics and the different mics I use. And a lot of the stuff I do, I use a lot of, my music, I use a lot of vocal transformers.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of layers of things going on because I'm trying to create characters. So all my music is like, the lead singer of my band is like the female version of myself named Josephine. And that's all created through all these like a Moog vocoder, a Roland vocoder, and it goes through all this other stuff. And so it's interesting because it's like analog and digital treatment of my voice.
That's so cool.
So
you can make some really crazy sounds.
Yeah, you can do different things. So a lot of what I do is totally like a creation of synthesizer technology, and just how you treat it and how you different mics you use and different echoes you use on it. And I'm always changing like the variation of her character. And every time I approach it, it's like, okay, well, if I use this mic, she's gonna sound like this. If I use this like digital delay, or if I use a spring reverb, there's all these different things I spend a lot of time on trying to get her to sound a certain way. And kind of like if you're doing stuff for films, like when you work on voiceovers for films, there's a lot of treatment that you do for things like that, and it's the same kind of stuff that I do. But yeah, it's a lot of this stuff you can do if you just like put your time into it. And now because of COVID, I think a lot of bands I've been talking to, they're like doubling down on, okay, instead of buying that RV or the tour bus money, I'm actually dumping it into better mics, better vocal processors, and to do work.
yeah, because to release like a successful record, it needs to sound professional. It needs to, you know what I mean? People's ears have got used to a certain level of quality, be that good or not, because everything is auto-tuned these days, which
Yeah,
I'm not into. But like, you can't have a bad USB condenser mic anymore. It's not going to cut it. Like, you need
yeah.
you
You
need
gotta
good
have the real.
equipment because people are going to know. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have a $5,000, $10,000 mic, or
Oh,
something that
yeah.
emulates that,
One
pretty good. Yeah, if you can find,
day. Yeah.
if you find one that can, if you find like $1,000 mic that emulates a $5,000 mic, it's like that's cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Neumann's nice. It can sometimes be quite scratchy because my voice is a bit husky. Um, but it's doing a good job at the moment. It was a good little investment, that one.
So are you focusing on like videos for Papers music? Are you working on some like, because a lot of things today are so visual? Are you going to be
Yeah.
putting stuff out on YouTube and
Yeah, so we just dropped the 90s baby video Friday,
cool?
which was cool. And then the next one, I'm kind of planning it at the moment. I've got this amazing videographer, Jack Dalman, that I've been using. I met him on a photo shoot I did a couple months ago, and he's just brilliant. Like, the way he edits and how he's just got like fresh ideas, and I just like everything he does. So I'm going to use him again. And just, kind of planning the next one at the moment. It's going to be quite a fun one to shoot, I think. It's a garage track, so I want it to be like really old school. Everyone like Adidas tracksuits and bucket hats and stuff like this.
That's cool. So are you thinking of doing any kind of online concerts? Like, there's a lot of new kind of online venues getting created. People, doing concerts off of Twitch, people joining collectives, and, some places are actually opening up venues and then having bands go on a stage and then streaming it from the stage. And maybe there's no audience.
I would love to do that. That would be awesome because I genuinely haven't played live in so long and I miss it. But I did like the IGTV kind of concert thing when I released my last project, but it just frustrated me because the sound quality is just never going to be good coming through an iPhone, filmed on an iPhone. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, if the opportunity arises, then
yeah, I started to use some technology I use is there's actually like a Roland like mixer that allows you to get like off of my soundboard the quality coming off of my studio. So it allows me to take my sound coming off my soundboard and then put it into like a Zoom camera.
Oh my god, yeah, that's a cool idea.
And then when you run them, like Roland makes these video mixers, not that I'm pushing for them, but they make these video mixers allows you to take in like high quality audio and then link it with HD video and then have multiple cameras on a live video shoot. So if you go like on Twitch, you can have like 4 cameras and they automatically switch while you're playing. And that's the kind of technology that like when if you can't do a live show, if you set it up in your home studio and you set up a bunch of web cameras and like one on the board, one on a live wide angle view, one on another view, and then you've got this thing where it randomly is popping through those angles while you're playing and then giving you a really high quality audio.
Yeah, that's a really good way around it, to be honest. It's just about adapting right now, especially like releasing a new project during this time. I mean, there wasn't a way to not do that because it had to be done, but it's not like I can just go play in London at different venues and people will find me. So that's a pretty good idea, to be honest.
Yeah, because if you start pushing yourself on Twitch, like the way Twitch is, like that's where all those video gamers are. But if you there are musicians popping on there, and I started doing it. And if you keep on showing up, you start building a base, right? And if you build enough of a base, they actually start monetizing you.
Love that. We all need.
So it's like if you get enough people coming in, if you get like 2,000 or 3,000 people coming in every time, suddenly they'll start monetizing your feed. Every time you play, then you start building an audience.
Amazing.
And then you can then push it to YouTube, and you can push it to Facebook, and then they will just kind of cascade from there. So that's why I've always talking to a lot of bands. I say, "Oh, how are we going to tour?" It's like you kind of got to think about doing something like that.
Go adapt and overcome right now. Yeah. For sure.
Because you can really build online. I mean, like internationally, with this podcast, I went from like 3,000 people listening to 26,000.
That's amazing.
And we're hoping to hit like 30,000 this year overall, and then another year we'll hit like 50. And it's worldwide. And I live in New Hampshire, in a really small town in New England, but I have a reach that goes beyond that.
Yeah. It's the new age, man. This is it's cool. It's a good thing for musicians, I think, because then you've got people all around the world that have access to your music. Especially like being in the UK, like everybody wants to break America. So being able to kind of like put your stuff over in the States and you've got people listening in the States, like that's awesome. That's a really cool.
To the whole question about streaming, it's like back in the day when I started, like I'm in my 50s, I had to go play in a pizza shop, or
Oh
play
my
in a
God.
bar doing Zeppelin covers,
Yeah.
and now because of the net, I get on SoundCloud, and then I get people all over the world listening, and then from there I get on Spotify, and then I get a podcast, and then suddenly I'm not just playing at Vinny's Pizza Shop. I'm able to hit like everywhere.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like about that? Since there are pros and cons to it, because in the old days people would actually buy your cassette
Yeah,
or
no,
buy your CD.
yeah, SoundCloud plays like no, Spotify plays sorry like 0.004p. It's mad. I
Yeah.
think like that's the con for sure because it's just hard as a musician to live off of music through your music. Do you know what I mean? If you're like synced and you've got other avenues like merchandise, stuff like that, then you can be okay. But like it's a shame that people don't go out and like buy records anymore.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's like
Yeah.
they go on Xbox or they'll go pay a YouTuber for playing a video game.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was watching my
Crazy.
daughter, right, and she was like sending $10 to a video YouTuber.
It's
And I said,
crazy.
well, why don't you buy a record?
Yeah, go on,
Because because it's like,
yeah.
and I see all these young people like they're giving these YouTubers tips of like $5 and $10 and $15 and $20, but they find it hard to buy a record out of
I
the
know.
iTunes store or Amazon or something from a musician. So it's just, it seems to be like the devaluation of music as an art form versus somebody who's just playing a video game. Not that that's not entertainment. I guess it is for this new
Dude, I
generation.
should start playing Xbox more, I think.
Well, that's why I think I started looking into like working with video game um, like programmers and
Hmm.
getting some of my songs pitched into their games.
Oh my God, amazing.
Because then if you actually get a song embedded in a game, your royalty rate's way higher than Spotify.
Yeah.
And so then I started looking into like you sync licensing. So I'm like heavily into that and influence marketing, and that's where I make most of my money. I mean, the ghost
Yeah.
is something I want. I want my ghost songs to make money, but I make more money as an influencer and as a podcaster. Uh,
Yeah.
but I use that money then to push my music and keep on doing it.
Yeah, I don't think people kind of realize like how much like people just go onto Spotify and they see the song there and they listen to it. And I don't think a lot of like the general public kind of know the amount of like time and work and money that goes into even getting that song sounding how it does and in front of you on your phone. I don't think people really know, especially being an independent artist, like what it can really take to
Yeah,
do that.
we're all paying the bill ourselves. We're
Oh my
paying
God,
for all of
it's
our
invested.
equipment and
Mm,
our mastering cost, and
mm.
making the cover and doing the photo shoot, doing
Yeah,
all that's coming out of our pocket.
yeah.
It's not like the old days where you got a budget and an A&R. They give you a budget, they give you a publicist, they give you the tour bus. All that stuff we have to self fund now.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get it. In this Corona world, what's really bad about it is a lot of the bands I used to interview, like in 2019, they were like heavy touring bands. Like the only
Mm-hmm.
way they made money, and these are U.S. like rock bands and punk bands and stuff like that. The only way they made money was like playing CBGBs or playing the Whiskey a Go Go.
My
It's the
God.
only way they can do it. And now they're like, oh, like what are we gonna do? And they haven't been able to get that audience that would see them live actually pay them on the net.
Yeah,
The
it's
only
so
thing they
sad. Like the industry right now, like between the musicians and like the hospitality industry, like especially in London, like we've got the curfew in now, so like all of the raves are shut down. Like events companies, like people can't, DJs can't play, musicians can't play. Like the whole kind of industry at the moment is really suffering. So hopefully this
yeah.
corona stuff out soon.
The only way you can translate is like you can get like your website and get somebody to buy like a USB drive version of your album or a
Oh my
cassette
God, yeah.
version of your album and a T-shirt. I find I actually could sell more Ghost T-shirts than I make more money selling Ghost T-shirts than selling the record.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm launching my merch next week, so hopefully
But that's like a common thing. A lot of musicians I've talked to, it's like I make more money on my T-shirts and my posters and my buttons
yeah,
than I do on a record. You know,
crazy.
and then the
Crazy.
vinyl has been one thing that actually is very profitable. Like if you do like a vinyl run of like less than 1,000 copies, and then you go to New York and you do a show, and then you at the end of the show you sign the vinyls. You can make more money than you ever made like on Spotify for the whole
Yeah.
year. You can make like actually decent amount of money as much as like doing the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people are willing, they like that. It seems like the vinyl format.
Oh, people love it.
People connect with it big time because it's like you can have, if you have a lyric book, and if you have you have a good cover and a little sleeve that has art on it, people feel it's like then they connect.
Yeah.
So
It's like back in the day when you buy a CD and you'd get like, I remember when I was like really young getting my first like Britney's CD, like Destiny's Child CD, and you'd like take out the thing and read all the lyrics, and there'd be like notes in there, and it was like, you're right, in a way that people feel connected to the artist. They feel like they're getting a bit more out of it.
So have you thought about, like, you're thinking about doing merch? Yeah, because that is kind of like how we can succeed is our merch seems to be what really.
Yeah. So I've got like loads of really cool t-shirts made because I'm like, as a person as well, I'm so into clothes. Like I love clothes. I am super into that. So I've designed loads of t-shirts that are gonna go live on my website next week, and like hats and hoodies and stuff like that. And I kind of want to build that also into a brand because I've wanted to do that for a long time. And if I can do it through papers, then that's even better.
I think that's like we have to be our own like small business people.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have to like look at opportunities to like link. Like I've actually done very good with like influence marketing where I'll get tied to some company that's selling like CBD or they're selling like some kind of product, and then I'll align with it and I'll do a blog post on it, or I'll take a picture with it, and then they'll give me compensation for that. And it's like it's interesting that like it's so hard in the music labels seem to need to get, or it is the production companies that push our music out. It needs to find a way to make our music more valuable, or make it so that we actually get a fair living wage from the work.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems like there's something missing in the way, and the Corona has really exposed it. Like it exposed it for a lot of people's jobs. It's like, okay, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
It seems like something needs to happen to make music more valuable or more, doable for us, so that we don't have to do all these other things.
Yeah.
The thing that we love the most.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think it's good being able to produce and stuff as well, because like ideally if I can produce for other people and make a living out of that as well, that would be awesome, because
That's another
my day job. And yeah.
Once you become a producer, then suddenly you can become a music director. Like being a keyboardist, I can get pulled in to do like music direction, because I know how to use all that MIDI gear. So like if somebody wants me to go, and run a show, I can do that. And so it's like, so I can, but now with Corona, now I can't really do that either.
So sad. Yeah. So sad. I don't know how much longer it can go on for, man. It's got. I don't know.
But you just keep on working on the project. I've talked to so many people that have a lot of projects going on because they've really been able to, like, okay, now because I can't tour, I'm actually going to focus on my music.
Yeah, get the material done and like really just work on your craft. So I think it's given a lot of us time to do that, which has been kind of the only good thing that's come out of it, really, having just the time to actually get your head down and focus.
So it's regarding the future of music, what do you think? You think it's like a combination of the things we're talking about? You think there's other things you want to do with your music going forward with like Paper's music? Where do you think you want to be like in the next 5 years?
Oh God, hopefully quite big and making some money. I'd like to really just build up the brand and just get out a lot of good material. I think the industry at the moment, I don't know, I feel like there's just a lot of like sexualization of women, and there's not enough female artists at the top at the moment. There's not enough female artists at festivals. We haven't really, I think the types of artists that are up there is all the same type of artists, and I'd quite like to kind of break that mold a little bit. I think people need like different stuff. I think eventually people are going to get bored of hearing the same voice over the same type of track 100 times a day, you know? So if I can break that in any way, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the industry that I've always been like very annoyed with is like even go back to the Beatles times, you know, the Monkees were a clone to the Beatles because the Beatles were doing well.
Yeah.
It's just like all the British invasion bands were all kind of okay. Well, let's try to market this to death until we knock it out. And that's what happened to disco. You know, people got sick of the Bee Gees. You know, people got sick of disco because it got overplayed. Or everybody started doing the same, trying to clone the Bee Gees. And everybody got
everyone
burned
tries
out.
to jump on the bandwagon and hope that it pays off as well.
And they don't seem
but
to
I think
learn.
There's a lot of music coming up now that is different. There's a lot of like different artists that maybe aren't getting played on the main radio stations, but have like 1 million listeners on Spotify a month. Like people aren't stupid, and I think people do like things that aren't just pop. You know what I mean? And there is space for it. But it's like what we were saying earlier, you've just got to kind of do it in a different way and not rely on like radio plays. You've just got to build up your brand and really just like push yourself and just believe everything you do 100%. I've got a lot of friends that have quit because it hasn't quite happened for them yet. And I think you can't really quit. You just got to keep going until something happens, you know?
I mean, I've been going since I was 17 and I'm in my 50s.
Yeah. But you love it. Like, you'll never stop. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of what happens, you do.
It's like a blues guy. Does a blues guy stop? No, they keep on playing till they're done. You know, you think about the guys in New Orleans or in Mississippi, you know, and I kind of subscribe to that where, you know, traditionally like African American music forms of jazz and blues and, you know, that type of rock. These guys, they kept on playing Lead Belly. They played till they were done. And it's not about being 17. It's about like you think about a blues guy, it's like they can be whatever age. You know, you can keep on going forever. You just if you have it, you just keep on doing it.
Exactly. And like as a musician, you'll just want to do it forever because you love it, you know.
Yeah, you don't have to play the young person's game. Like, well, I've got to be like 18. I got to have this look. It's got to be like that. You don't want to fall into that trap because, like, as a musician, you're going to get better.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, the stuff I was making when I was 18, and you think it's the best thing in the world, and you look back, it's even now like stuff I made a year ago. I'm like, I wouldn't even make that now. You know, you improve all the time. That's the hard thing about putting out records as well, because I think I could always change something, and especially now that I do all my own production, I've got the files in front of me, and I'm like, oh, I could just change that drum beat there, or I could just change that synth a little bit, and eventually you've just got to be like, no, just put it out and move on.
That's interesting. I like to go back to songs and then like rework them. Like I'll go back to stuff I did like 5 years ago and then say, hey, no, I can reapproach this and do it again. And then even something I did like a couple of weeks ago, I'll make multiple variations of stuff I'm working on because basically it's like the refinement of what you do, and then eventually like I put it out. And I think that's just the growth as an artist. As an artist, that you do something and then it evolves. Into a piece. Like a lot of jazz bands, like their pieces evolve. If you think about like free jazz, that piece really is never done. They keep on evolving it. And they just keep on. If you think like a Zappa or like a Parliament Funkadelic in that kind of context, you can take your songs and if you put them in that context, you can continually change what you're working on to kind of fit where you are.
Like one of my songs that's going to be coming out called Sunday, I wrote when I was like 18 or 19, and I found the YouTube video like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh my god, this is sick. Like I need to remake all of this, and it's turned into something completely different, but something that I like represents me now. It's really cool. And plus, like sometimes old lyrics are just as good as your new lyrics. It's just the beat was a bit
you just it's like it's where you are today as a musician, you know. And where Hendrix was on any day. I got so many like old Hendrix tapes, and like every time he played something, it was kind of like whatever he was feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was like, and that's kind of like the nature of being a musician. Like that's the beauty of it. It's like you know, it's like a painter. Every day they paint, it's gonna be something a little different. It's not gonna be the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's the beautiful part of it. And I think that's one thing in the industry I've been kind of railing for the people to be more do more improvisation or more kind of stream of consciousness to kind of show people who they are at that moment.
Yeah. Because every day you're in a different mood, you know. That's why like a lot of my songs are really different, because you're not the same person every single day, you know. You don't always want to write about stuff or it's really cool. And you're right, that's how people start to get to know you.
Yeah, I think that's like when people really get to see you, like if you do a live concert and you do like suddenly you do like a stripped down version of your song, like you know, like the old unplug idea, like when Kurt Cobain went and did this unplugged stuff, and he was like this big heavy grunge guy, but then he went and played these kind of Beatle tunes. You're like, wow, you know, he can do that. And
he can do that as well as other stuff. Yeah, for sure, it's really cool. It's a good thing for people to see.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, well, great talking to you, Papers Music, and we're gonna push this out to our 11 platforms. We are actually part of Spotify, but it's gonna go out to like Apple. It's gonna go out to Google. It's gonna be on 11 different platforms. We're gonna send it out. We'll send you the top link for the Apple Music link and the Spotify link, and we'll push it on our social media. It'll be out in the next hour. And if you want to come on the show when you have your next project ready, if you have your album ready,
I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to. It's been really nice talking to you. Thank you so much for reaching out and setting this up. It's been a nice evening, you know.
We love talking to musicians. We like pushing like artists because we think, you know, that's something we don't see as much of as we would like. You know, we like free form interviews where people kind of really open up, and that's why we kind of do what we do. But
I love it.
Thank you for being on the program.
Yeah, enjoy your Sunday, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah, we'll speak soon. See you later.
Bye.